Has there ever been a better animal than the dog?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, there is a better animal.
What are you gonna say, cat?
Of course,
I'm gonna
cat.
just like flip this over. This interview is over.
Let's talk tails.
An athlete. Background as a certified MBA, WNBA player agent, a continuous learner who provides confidential executive coaching, virtual and in-person facilitation, and all aspects of leadership development coaching using his over 30 years of corporate experience. Today's Tales with Taylor guest is a board member with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Arizona, recognized by ICF as a professional certified coach, a certified facilitator, a success coach with the Humanitarian Coaching Network, a transition coach with Athlete's Soul, a foundation board member at William Patterson University in Wayne, New Jersey, and a world traveler. Plus, he shares the same first name as my dad, and I share the same first name as one of his daughters. So let's have fun on Tales with Taylor with Brian Wood. How are you?
I am great. Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much, Taylor.
Thank you so much for being here. So you are an ex-athlete or current athlete. I think everyone's always an athlete at heart if they love sports, but you're also an NBA agent. So my guess is your sport you used to play was basketball?
It used to be basketball. I still play in my mind, but at this stage of the game, Taylor, my knees hurt when I watch a game. So, but lots of great memories, great experience, and a lot of fun, and a ton of life lessons along the way, which I think I use in my coaching practice between the failures and the successes and all those kinds of things. But yeah, that's my story and my painful knee background tale.
Oh. You know, it's so funny you say that. Literally yesterday, my son and I were watching a game and he saw a player get hurt and he says, adults can get hurt? And I was like, actually way easier than you kids.
And it lasts a much longer time. It's so funny, like when you're competing as a younger person, it seems like you sprain an ankle and then 10 minutes later you're healed.
You're bouncing back.
And now, you stub your toe and it is, an ER visit. So yeah, it's definitely, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So tell me, as a executive coach, do you find that there's a common tale that you have to tell these executives in order to help them reach to their heights that they want to?
It's a great question. And on the theme of tales, I think a lot of what we do is tell ourselves either the right tale or the wrong tale. So the things that we tell ourselves, to kind of get to your question, the themes that show up are often connected to leaders telling themselves the wrong story. And then the things that we tell ourselves, the tales that we tell ourselves, they become true. So I think that's a big one, just that as like an overarching theme. Like you got to tell yourself the right stuff, even if it's not entirely true.
Yes, but you could believe it. And so, the power that we have within our mind to make things true. So what would be some tales that you would tell the people that you work with to help them maybe even rewrite the stories that they tell themselves?
Yeah, I'd say that remind yourself that you're good enough, because often there's that imposter syndrome where we convince ourselves, and to your point, we actually believe it so it becomes true. We feel like we're a fraud. They're not going to believe me. They're going to find out that I'm not good enough, and that's the wrong story. But that's the start, right? And then I think the thoughts that become true should be connected to your own personal highlight film. So think about athletically, the player that is constantly looking at the things that they do really well. It reminds them of their greatness. Well, you've got to do the same thing from a leadership perspective. You've got to remember the highlights, the things that you do really well, and the stuff that doesn't go perfectly, because it doesn't always go perfectly. We can delete those pretty quick.
Yeah.
don't completely forget them. Use them for future lessons as needed, but don't hang on to it like a badge of honor. Those are a couple things that come to mind.
So do you think there's a lot of similarities between being a successful athletic team and being a successful business team? Because when I hear you just say that, it makes me think about how athletes will review game tape for both the good and the bad. And because they don't want to forget about the bad, like you said, they want to learn from it and take note. So do you find that if you kind of almost think of those similar tactics of looking at reports, looking at your activities as a business almost as game tape, do you find that there's a lot of similarities between that?
Absolutely. And I think when you look at both athletes and leaders in the corporate world, it's really got to be looking at what was the best use of my time? The last 24 hours, what did I do? And to your point, it shouldn't be just beating yourself up. It should be more of discernment, like, oh, okay, I can do that even better. Like, let me find what the opportunity is to be even better in the drills, to be even better from a productivity standpoint, whatever the case may be. But constantly rewinding the game and re-examining your previous 24 hours and then imagining what the ideal 24 hours could look like and should look like. So I think that's a long way to say, yes, there's an absolute correlation between excellence in sports and excellence in leadership and whatever career you choose.
Excellent. So you're talking almost about like visualization. Do you feel that visualization's an important aspect no matter if you're trying to achieve an athletic or business goal?
Yes. I guess you want me to go more than that. I was trying to bring it shorter because I was rambling last time. But
no, great.
I think what happens is it's like that self-fulfilling prophecy, self-fulfilling travesty. If we think the wrong things, I'm going to screw this up. That's what often happens. But the visualization is about, I've already won. Like this has already happened. It's already a done deal. And when you start from that place and you understand that you've already won while giving yourself a little bit of grace along the way, that can be a powerful thing. Because if you've ever been in a space, and I've been there where it's like, I hope I don't spill this coffee. I hope I don't spill this coffee. Not only because it's the most delicious drink known to mankind, but I don't want to mess up, right? But the more I think about, am I going to spill this coffee, the greater the chance of me stubbing my toe, spilling my coffee. It actually, that self-fulfilling travesty takes place.
And it's also just like the energy of that mindset. It's like, okay, well, instead of thinking about spilling the coffee, think about, being successful and nailing it. It's similar to happened to me. I had the honor of actually being the host and MC for the Spectrum Awards for the Arizona American Marketing Association. And it was fun. It was in person. It was on stage. But I was definitely, for a moment, concerned, what if I mispronounce someone's name? I'm going to feel so bad. I'm going to wear heels. Why am I going to wear heels? What if I trip? But then quickly, it's like you need to stop and say, why are you telling yourself those tales? If you're telling yourself those tales, you're setting yourself up for like, okay, what will happen when I fall? Instead of, let's just practice. We're going to enunciate everyone's names. We're going to smile, have fun, and it'll be great.
It's funny, too, because you look at that worst case scenario, what you described, or me describing the coffee spilling. Does anyone get hurt in that scenario? Does anyone get killed? No, probably not. Not the end of the world. So even in the moment, if something weird happens, like you're doing your thing and you're emceeing and you forget your line, even in that moment, there's an opportunity, right? To not continue to tell yourself the story, the tale that, I messed up. I knew I was going to mess up. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. Instead, just like if you drop a pass or you miss a layup athletically, you say, oh, wow, I'm way better than that. Okay, how am I going to finish this game strong? How am I going to finish my speech strong even though I forgot a line? Like you wouldn't be the first person to forget a line. You wouldn't be the first person to miss a layup. It really becomes, now what? What am I going to do next? And that that can save things pretty
How
quick.
do you choose to react about that situation?
For sure. Yep.
Definitely. So tell me a tale you wish you would have told your younger self.
Such a good question. I would say I need time to think about that.
I know sometimes
but I will say, no, that's great. I love this conversation. I'd say sometimes that we show up, and this applies to me, I think, not taking as many chances as we should. I think that would be something an older version of me telling a younger version, that younger version would really appreciate, because sometimes we misconstrue being a good teammate for not making waves and not taking chances and not betting on yourself and those kinds of things, when really it's selfish to not look out for yourself and really not pursue the things that are really aligned with your values and the things that you want to do. Being a good teammate could be, you know what, I'm going to get in your face because I know you can be better and I know our team can be better. But if you're of the mindset of, I just want to be a good teammate, so I don't want to upset Taylor, that's really letting Taylor down.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to, I mean, not picking a fight just to pick a fight, but there's got to be some intentionality. Like, I know you're better than that, Taylor. Let's go. Let's figure this out. And if I upset you with that kind of conflict and that kind of difficult conversation, I can live with that.
Right.
I can't live with, wow, I let down my teammate. I knew that I should have called Taylor out on that because I know she can be better. And I didn't do it, so I let myself down. That's something that's harder to live with. So that's something that I think you get better with age.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have that mindset earlier in life.
I love that because it's so true. I think we become a little more confident as we get older, so we're more okay with that because we understand that actually being clear is kind. I think as we are growing up, we want to be kind, we want to be liked. But sometimes, and I learned this from Brene Brown, is just, well, no, being clear is kind. Being honest, telling your teammate, like, you can do better than that. Like, let's, just because you see it. Although in that moment, it may not come off as kind, but as you're saying, what's better? To just let them not live up to their potential because you just didn't tell them, or, let them just keep moseying along.
And I'll say this, so I love Brene Brown. Awesome. And I also think it's worth thinking about the other side of that. Like, if I'm the teammate who's not getting it done for you, and you didn't say anything, my reaction is probably like, Taylor, like, why didn't you tell me? Like, why didn't you tell me I could do better? Like you let me down. Like, you would never want that, right? I would much rather, to your point, like, I would much rather have an awkward, difficult conversation, an argument even, and then the understanding that, oh, okay, Brian was on my side. That's why he pushed me, because he could see that I have more effort to bring to the table, athletically, business, life, all the above, and it all combines, right? It all intersects.
Yeah, I love sports. I think sports are so important in the development of a person. That's why I got my son into sports. My daughter, she's about to be 2.5, and we're going to put her into a multi-sport program like we did for my son. I just think that the character building that you get, teamwork, there's so many real life skills, that intersect. Like my son's baseball team, they went to the semi-championship, but they lost. But my son, 3 for 3, got 2 outs. He's like, I got 3 runs. Like, he was so, I know, so explaining that, like, as a team. And, so I think it's so important that kids do have some sports exposure. Do you think it's important for kids to get sports exposure?
Could not agree more. No, and there's a couple things that come to mind. One is, and I can't say the quote verbatim because I can't remember it, but Colin Powell had a great quote. He talked about essentially the people that are pampered and protected, when they get cut, they bleed to death. And so for me, when you talk about sports, that's a great opportunity to get cut, and hopefully you don't bleed to death.
But it's a great learning opportunity to lose. Like, trust me, I wanted my son to win. Obviously, we want them to win, but I would rather him lose young and learn how to persevere through that and what can you do next time and next year to do better than those, because sometimes you even see it in sports. So you hear about these quarterbacks who went all through high school, never losing, all through, And then comes, the NFL, and welcome to the NFL. Or here comes a situation, and it seems like they can crumble a little faster because they haven't had that adversity.
For sure. Those life lessons are so valuable. Performing under pressure, the crowd, which you think is just the end of the world, right? I remember first time playing a game in like freshman basketball, and there were like 5 people in the stands. 2 of them were my parents,
right.
And I'm like, and we're running out to a little boom box and the layup lines, and I swore I was in Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
It's intense, no matter what.
But the point is, to your very point, is like getting an opportunity to fail and learn, and then figure out, okay, now what, right? Yeah. That didn't feel good at all. No. What can I do different? What can I do more of, less of, better? That's a big deal. And on the subject of sports, I'll also say, so as parents, growing up playing sports, the best day athletically is there's nothing greater as a player. The worst day, nothing worse. This is the end of my life, the end of the world. But the reality is that doesn't compare at all to when you see those meddling kids out there competing. It's next level. So I think that's another lesson, just experiencing sports, not only playing it, but as a spectator and in life and in leadership. When you see your children out there competing, it's just the next level. So
it's amazing. I didn't think 5-year-olds were going to be so entertaining.
Yeah,
but they are really hitting those balls and making plays, and it's amazing. I know it's just going to get better and better. So
Yep.
Yeah. So you're fairly tall. What position did you play?
So it was a long time ago when I played, and I'm 6'5", and really the only thing I brought to the table was I used to play pretty physical. So to answer your question, it was like 6'5". That's kind of a small guard now. Yeah, but at the time, it was like power forward, but more like, a lot of down in the lane, kind of dirty work.
Yeah, down in the trenches when it comes to
basketball. And in the center, yeah. So, but a long time ago. But it's so funny how it feels like just yesterday.
Yeah.
But it goes so fast.
But the game has changed, though, because the physicality, I think, is a little less there. The game has moved out from the rim, I feel, comparative.
Lots of threes.
Lots of threes, more so. And so, I grew up with the whole Bulls era and all that. And so, personally, a big Scottie Pippen fan. I always love, someone who can just set things up.
An incredible Robin, right? And
exactly.
Really would have been a Batman on a lot of other teams. But just incredible. Yeah.
So for myself, I've been 5'5", like literally since 5th grade. So I started as a center in 5th grade, and then come high school, everyone else grew up, and so I worked my way to the 2. I went to a shooting guard. But if there was a slow and sloppy center, they'd still sometimes put me down on the post because I knew where they were going to move and how what they were going to do.
It's the crime is that you understand the game as you get older when you don't have the knees to really play the game, like the angles and the spacing and all the things that you're describing. And you're like, wow, if you could just, like they say, there's that saying that youth is wasted on the young. If you can combine the knowledge with the physical awesomeness, that's like the perfect storm.
I know. Right? No, trust me. It's one of those things. I know you say your knees hurt when you watch it. For me, sometimes watching basketball frustrates me so much because I don't feel like there's any defense anymore. And that was my game. I was even able to play on teams a year older than me because I would just be like the relief defensive player always. The coach a year up would always bring me on to just do, second string defense. And I was much rather playing with kids older than me, even being a bench player, than starting on my own age. I just thought it was a better competition, and so now just not seeing people box out and
it's not drives me nuts. It's because it's effort, right? It really is effort. So no, you're speaking my language, and especially when you talk about defense and some other things. And so I was an NBA and WNBA player agent. I'm not active in that space anymore. But when I would go to support players during their tryouts, we always talked about, okay, if hopefully you'll make all 15 of your shots. If you don't, just say that you're off today for whatever reason. there's an opportunity to do something. Like, that's a huge opportunity. When the scouts are out there watching Taylor play, when things are going great for Taylor, that's kind of good to see, I guess. They really want to see, how do you react? What do you do when things are not going well?
Right.
And so to be able to show up and understand that, wow, I'm missing my shots, this is a great opportunity. Well, that doesn't even make any sense, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't even make any sense until it does.
Yeah.
And it makes sense when you realize that, wow, they're going to see me now at my worst moment, and they are going to see me playing defense like a demon and boxing out like a maniac.
Right.
And they're going to say, what is wrong with Taylor? She is like, we just love the way she shows up when things aren't perfect. Like, that's being a great teammate. So
Well, that's the beautiful thing
so
about
many
basketball
lessons.
is it's two sides. You know,
Yeah.
you can't just play. I don't like it when players just play one side of the court. You know, if you know that shot's off, follow your shot. You know where it's going to ricochet. Like you know what I mean. When you let that off and you're like, oh, it's left. You just have that feeling. And I just feel like a lot of times when you look at today's game, it's you know, you pull up and you fall back.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah. And it's funny too. I don't want to be, even though I probably often sound like the old man, get off my lawn, kids.
No, it's wisdom.
But it's wisdom, yeah. But I don't know. I think you can have both. You can have appreciation for the game because some of these players are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then you can have frustration that I don't think he or she put in the effort, or I think he or she was arguing with the ref
Right.
when and essentially they were letting down their teammates.
Oh, that
They
was
didn't get
another
back.
lesson I
Like
had to
that's
give
like, you can
James.
argue after, during a timeout, whatever the case may be, but there are some things that you can do to be a great teammate, and then there are some things that you can do that, you know, maybe not intentionally, but you're letting down your team.
How you mentioned with the refs, you know, I think refs and umps are also a great lesson in life that I also had to teach my son recently because they totally got some calls wrong. And I said, sometimes in life, things are going to happen that are beyond your control, that may not go your way, but you got to push through it and find a way.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that having that experience through sports, you regularly get that of, okay, there's going to be forces in life, you know, whatever it may be, weather, government, that you're just going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And you don't have control. And so you shouldn't harp on it. It's the players that harp on things that are beyond your control. It's putting energy in the wrong way. And
For
so,
sure. And that's you're at the fork in the road, and you're going to either accept defeat. Like, so the question is like, are you going to let that person, that referee dictate? Are you going to give them the power, Taylor, to do that? Okay. Or the other is the question of, okay, now what? What's it going to take? What's it going to take for you to overcome some challenging, terrible calls, whatever the case may be? Like, you can choose to just give up, give them the power, or you could just think about what would it take? Like, what would it take to win anyway? And that's the idea.
I don't feel games are truly, you know, sure, maybe a play here or there, but you can't say a game's decided from a single person making a call, because why didn't you do X, Y, and Z more, you know? So I think the same things in life, you know, tsunami, you know, hurricane happens, traumatic, terrible event, but what now? We can't harp on it. So I'd love to hear the tale behind Mars Coaching. How did you get the name Mars Coaching?
So Mars Coaching is actually, it's an acronym.
Okay.
So Myrtle Wood Athlete Representation and Success Coach. So that's Mars. A lot of people think that it's men are from Mars, women are from Phoenix.
I thought maybe it was your favorite candy bar brand, you know, Mars
Not
bars,
a bad one.
you know.
Not a bad one, yeah. But anyway, that's where it came from. Just an acronym, yep.
Excellent, excellent. And so, you know, what is it about coaching that you enjoy so much?
You know, it's so much of what I do, and it's been a journey. Like, I was in corporate for a long time, as you mentioned, and impactful things. We're here for such a short amount of time. Our life is so short. And the idea of driving as much impact as possible is something that really resonates with me. I have so much gratitude for my mom and dad are no longer here, but Jerry and Jackie Wood are just, they were just, the sacrifice, everything they did was just so amazing, and doing something to almost pay it forward, show gratitude to them. Anything that is connected to service and impact is something that's the gateway. I'm going to get involved in a project. It's either a yes or no based on that idea. Is this an opportunity to drive positive impact? Is this something that's going to be service related? Okay, great. And I can connect that back to Myrtle Avenue and my parents and all that kinds of stuff. And so really that's where it came from. So I just stumbled into coaching, and I realized that there are a lot of people in the corporate space that are struggling, even though it looks like they're doing great. Inside, they're dying. And or athletically, everyone thinks that I'm fantastic until my performance on the court, on the ice, on the field is not as good as it had been in previous years. People always want something from me as a professional athlete. People always want a picture, they want a loan, whatever it is. So being able to serve people and help them serve others is just something that resonated with me and something that I learned throughout my corporate journey. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you help people who, because with being an athlete, your career, you're old by, 30s and things for most sports. Granted,
sure.
We got our LeBron James, we have our, we have some people who are still doing it. But for the most part, it's like you almost need to have like a second half career plan. Do you help, athletes or ex-athletes make that transition into a corporate world or a, business of sorts?
So for sure. And really it's so tricky because sometimes we're conditioned to believe that this is your value. So for an athlete, that value can be if you score X amount of points, you're awesome. If you don't, you're horrible. And having a plan in place, and not a plan that this is the plan that we use for everyone, Taylor. It's the Taylor plan. And that is like, let's just imagine, fast forward, and you're 40 years old and you're done playing in the league after 20 years in the WNBA. Now what? To dream and visualize, like you talked earlier, is really a critical element in that transition. So you may not get the same thrill of playing in front of 100,000 people when you're 22 years old with your next chapter, but we can figure out what would get you closer to that feeling, what you're passionate about, as opposed to what other people are telling you, this is what you should do. This is your best move.
Right.
Because it's a personal, individual choice.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah.
So at what point is it best to connect with you? Should people connect with you for coaching support before they leave sports? Well, what would be some indicators of like, yeah, I really should call Brian?
So I would say all of the above. And I think the sooner the better. It seems like it's kind of like life. You think that, we're going to be here for forever. You turn around and you're just like, wow, wait a minute, I'm this old. Like, how did this even happen? So to plan in advance, the earlier you plan and just dream and imagine and think through what the possibilities may look like, they can always evolve and change along the way. But starting a plan while you're playing and exploring while you're playing is much more effective than going through that. Now what? What do I do? I never saw this coming, or I denied thinking about this. So that's a long way to say it's important to do both. I think people that have contacted me that are no longer competitive, we can figure a lot of things out. Optimally, if we figure things out before you're even thinking about retirement, that could be more valuable. So I'd say both, but the earlier the better, just to dream and imagine and think through what this could look like.
I think it's so important, especially with sports. You never know when a major injury is going to happen. It's one of those things that with business and corporate, you can plan a little more. You can say, I want to leave the next 6 months. I want, and make a little more of a definitive answer. But I feel like with athletes, you don't always quite get that opportunity where, yes, if you can plan ahead, already have a plan B, you can just slide right into it. I think like Jason Kelce is like a great example. Who has ever cared this much about a center in the NFL?
True story. You're exactly right. Yeah.
And now he's on like every commercial.
He's on, unbelievable.
You know, ESPN for Monday Night Football. And it's because he started his podcast before, you know, retiring. And he had the whole documentary about him thinking about retiring. They end up going to the Super Bowl. So it's like he was doing a lot of those, like, you know, seed plantings.
Yeah.
That then, once it became time to retire, people were like, okay, he does know how to speak on camera. He's funny. People like him. Sure, let's hire him to be on camera.
What's not to like? I mean, the guy is awesome.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of exploring things that are maybe aligned with your passions and your values. And maybe he does that and he experiments in the podcast space and he's like, this is the worst. I don't want to do this. No problem. There's 100 other things out there. Turns out he's really good at that. So it's a great example, right? But there could be, the point is, there could be something for an athlete beyond. You can be an analyst. You can be you can open up a car dealership. There may be a handful of things people are saying this is what you'd be really good at, when the reality is, I just want to travel. I just want to be a park ranger. I want to work with animals. Like, there could be 100 different things, but if we don't explore and imagine what might be really exciting for the next chapter, we'll never know what that looks like.
So true, so true. And so, you know, one great way to explore is, you know, through reading. Are there certain tales that you absolutely love reading or listening to? I love Audible, I can't lie, so.
I crush Audible. So I'm a big fan of Audible. I'm also a huge fan of Blinklist.
Oh,
so
what is this?
Blinklist is, and they're not a sponsor, but they're
not a sponsor yet.
Not yet. That's awesome. So they're like 20-minute nonfiction development books, and so you can literally get a 60-minute workout. Let's just say you're just doing a 60-minute workout and listen to 3 books. It's not the same thing, right? It's not the same thing as reading, but it gives you just a ton of stuff, and it's just really super efficient. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell, his work. So, I really love to get recommendations from other people, because there's so many great books out there. And if you just pick one and you cross your fingers and hope it's a good one, then that's not the best strategy. But someone who really has got a ton from a specific book, I love to get recommendations, for sure.
Yeah, me too. I always love a good recommendation, because you're right. You know, there's so many books out there, and, you know, time is something you can't get back. And so if you're trying to spend some time, but I'm right up there too. I love nonfiction. I love any kind of, you know, self-development. Yeah, if you're exercising or if you're driving. And the beautiful thing about Audible, I feel, for me, is I'll then be able to re-listen. You know, so I'll re-listen to books sometimes, and it's amazing that you do catch things that maybe you didn't catch the first time. So yeah, what was your favorite book maybe this year that you listened to?
So one that comes to mind, and I can't think of the author's name. Atomic Habits.
Oh, Atomic Habits, James Clear.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so
I've subscribed to his newsletter. That's the reason why. Yeah, I would advise subscribing to his
newsletter.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. So once a week it's a short newsletter. He'll have like my top 3 things I'm thinking about from me, and then top 3 like little great quotes from other people that he admires. Yeah. Nice.
See, there was one section in the book, and they talked about if a pilot goes from LA to New York, they just do one tiny change, which represents the habit, you know, the habits that we can change every day. That one tiny little change, no one will even notice it until they show up in DC instead of New York. And that was something that visual really left a mark with me, where it's like, it's not, I'm gonna run a marathon tomorrow. No, slow down. Just do 5 jumping jacks, or stretch for 10 minutes, or drink another glass of water. And those small habits will change your destination entirely, in a good way.
Yeah, so, just compounds, and you know,
Yep. And then it builds momentum, and then, you know what, I can incorporate another activity that's going to serve me, and I can delete something that's probably not the best habit for me to do, and then you turn around and you're a new person. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one. That's a good one, definitely. And like I said, I would sign up for the newsletter. They're worth it every week. Excellent. Yeah, mine this year, I'd say, was Imagination Inc. by Ed Catmull.
Oh, okay.
He is the founder of Pixar.
Wow.
And so for me, you know, owning a video marketing company
Yeah,
is definitely
yeah.
very curious. And one of our main goals is building a team. We really want to build a team more. As much as I love being on set and seeing everyone, I also want to start being a little more available for my kids, I feel. And so it's, okay, we need to build a team. How do you do that? How do you make, you know, not that I think we'll make Pixar per se, but it's like, wow, how do you make Pixar? Beautiful book. It was great. And the Audible is also narrated by him. Something about having it narrated by the actual writer just makes it that much more authentic and just worth the listen. It had me crying from like just being like, wow, like just being proud for them, and it just lots of great information about building a team. And so if any of your, you know, clients that you're working with, they're having struggle with team building, I would advise that one.
That's awesome. Well, let me say this, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
and even if you do. First of all, it's such a thrill to be here with you, because I have such appreciation and respect for the work that you do. You're amazing. And I'm connecting this to Pixar. One of the things I think from a leadership development perspective, and even athletes transitioning away from sports, the element that we're often missing is imagination, and that's Pixar, right? It's imagination, and we have this incredible imagination, the ability to have fun and explore and play games as children, and then as we get older, some of that stuff wears off. So that seems like that Pixar, that imagination, that creativity, that innovation, that really is a secret weapon that a lot of people overlook, and I know you don't overlook that. But anyway, that makes sense when you tell me about how that really resonated with you, just based on how you show up.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah, we like to have fun here, as you can see from the Tales of Taylor logo.
Yeah.
And we like to have fun, and I really do also, you know, why I like connecting people like you is the fact that you said your goal is, you know, to give back, to help people. You know, if we're not on this world to make it a better place, what's the point? And so, you know, equally, I love to connect with people and organizations that are doing things for the better, for the greater good. And that's why I even wanted to have this show, to just highlight people like yourself in the community, and, you know, let people know more about you and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I completely agree. It's not to make the world a better place, to inspire someone, to give someone hope, to deliver empathy, all that stuff. It sounds good, but it's not it shouldn't be a look at these great things that we're doing. It's more of like, this is our responsibility. This is our obligation. This is how we're supposed to show up every day. And that ripple effect that's created is, it really can be a tsunami in a good way. Like if we all show up and figure out ways to make things a little bit better every day. That doesn't sound, that's the habit, right? Just one or two small habits,
little things, can
change everything.
I know he's not the most popular for some people, but Mark Zuckerberg, he was on a podcast with Tim Ferriss, and they were talking about just parenting habits. And one thing that I will say I absolutely love that apparently the Zuckerbergs do is they ask their children every day, what's one nice thing you did for someone? And I was like, that is really powerful. And to think, you know, I was happy to hear that someone of such a huge organization is still thinking about like the human and people element, and instilling that into their children. So I thought that was an interesting little tidbit.
So I got to tell you one thing.
Okay.
So you just planted this in my head. So this is completely your fault. So my sisters, younger sister Tanya, older sister Donna, and so growing up, my mom would give us the chores, like these are the chores that you had to do. Here's your list of chores, and you're just like, And so kind of similar to what you described here, we would go through the list of chores, and it would say things like love life, count your blessings, and all these things like, this is great. We could just like cross them off and like, don't have to worry about. But what it did is subliminally, you know, it enforced that habit of, wow, I should really be grateful, and I probably should count a blessing or two, and I should appreciate life. But and this goes back to Pixar, innovation, creativity, and leadership as a parent. The smallest things and I guess connected to habits, the smallest things that we do for our children, they don't miss a thing.
They don't.
They don't miss a thing, good or bad. So the tiniest habits can really change the world and set them up to change the world to an even higher level.
Definitely. And, and I think people shouldn't think that their kids are ever too young to learn what could be considered an adult topic. For example, finances. My son's 5. He has a wallet. He has a piggy bank. He can earn money by vacuuming, doing basic stuff around the house.
Yeah.
And so if it's not his birthday and it's not Christmas and he wants something, we go, okay, bring your wallet. And now he's like, oh, wait, but that costs $20? Really? That's like so many vacuums. And we're like, yes, that's things.
That's the point.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to you? And so it's, that education of like value. This might be $20 and this might be $20. But if this is truly a value to you, then spend the $20.
Yeah.
And so, so even at 5, some
That's
people
awesome.
are like, that's a little young, but he's getting it.
Yeah. Better than, I think that's great. I really do. And better to do that than, like we were talking about, being a not such a good teammate.
Yeah.
And better to do what you're doing than your son at 23 saying, hey, Mom, how come you never told me about like how this works?
Yeah.
Like, you would feel like a bad teammate in some ways, right? But anyway.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, am I too much of a, just speaking to him like an adult? But, that's how we've always been. I never called anything a potty. It was the toilet. So
Nice.
he's, it's all good.
Yeah.
He's a good student, so I think it's working out.
Awesome.
So tell me, what's your favorite animal with a tail?
Has there ever been a better animal than the dog?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, there is a better animal.
What are you going to say, cat?
Of course,
I'm going
cat.
to just like flip this over. This interview is over. What's better than the dog?
I like being aunts of dogs.
Okay.
I like being aunts of dogs. I don't want to pick up its poo. I don't, if it starts jumping too much, like get your
Calm down.
dog. So I like being an aunt of a dog, but no, I like being parents of cats. So I know we're doing so
we
good.
Were doing
I know
so
we're
well.
doing so
I had this. Can I retract that nice stuff I said about you?
See, that's why I got it in already.
Yeah,
so
it's
now
on film. Yeah.
It's already recorded. It's done.
I don't dislike cats. I dislike the fact that I'm allergic to cats.
Okay,
So
that
that's
is
the thing.
tough.
But
That is
dogs,
very tough.
they're so good.
All I gotta do is just
Unconditional.
take like an allergy medicine every day. I do it. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't know.
I feel you. No,
think-
that is really tough, though. If you're
Yeah.
allergic to cats, because cats, just like dogs, just like humans, everyone has their own personality. You can't, necessarily say I don't like any dog. Or I don't like,
Yeah.
that's just too generalized.
I agree.
Because even thinking at my house, I have 2 cats, totally different personalities. One of them's a psycho cat that just runs around all over the place and will just like jump on you, then jump off. And the other one, you don't even know she exists. So
It's just nature in general, and just like all animals, just admiring the beauty. But yeah,
So is there a
number
breed
one
of dog?
dread. No.
We've had poodle
No.
favorites. We've had boxer favorites.
No, I don't. I mean, they're all good.
They're all good.
They're all good.
Dogs.
They're all my dogs are my number one draft pick.
Okay.
They're
101 all the time. All right.
Cats probably don't even get drafted. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
but
it's a shame.
but I respect
See,
your appreciation.
I had a cat though, Karma, who would walk on a leash, who would always be at the front door when anyone came to the house, and you could put a little bow tie on her. and she
Did you
was,
say a leash?
She'd walk on a leash.
Wow.
So I'm saying, we can't judge every single cat. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was amazing. I
Wow.
brought her from Maryland to Arizona. She, was my passenger in my car on the way here. I would stop at gas stations, put her on her leash, let her walk around a bit. Living in my apartment, I would just walk around the apartment complex with her on a leash, and yeah.
I'm trying to process this, Taylor. So how did it start? Like because cats normally they're not leashed animals, right?
So I just got a harness. I put it on her.
Okay.
I said, "You want to go outside? This is the way." And she was like, "All right."
Okay.
But that was Karma for you. She
Okay.
was that was that type of cat.
Okay.
So
Great
that was-
name too. That's a great
Thank
name.
you. She was a black and white tuxedo.
Okay.
Also, so the black and white. Yeah, her name was Karma. She was just super chill, and yeah, it wasn't. She stood still for a moment and then just started walking, and then the rest was history. She's
Wow.
like, "I get to go outside if I put this on. Let's do this." So
I don't know how cats show up, but dogs are always happy to see you. So I'm guessing cats are similar. I'm not
Cats are
sure.
similar. So-
or more shady. I'm not sure exactly how that
No.
works. But
Cats are similar,
dogs
but they'll
are like,
hold a
"Oh,
grudge."
he's back again. This is incredible. It's an amazing day." It's
Yeah.
just You said they'll hold a grudge?
They'll hold a grudge, though. Like, if I went on vacation,
Yeah.
like, there'll be puke on my bed.
Yeah, just hate puke.
Hate puke.
Yeah,
just all over
yeah.
the bed. Just, like, in the middle. It's like
Yeah.
they found the perfect middle. Puke on the bed.
Spiteful.
Poop directly outside of the litter box. So
Yeah.
it's like they knew where to go, and they're like, oh, I just
You want to go
need
on vacation
walk in.
again, Taylor?
Yeah.
Because this I
came
got more
out.
of this.
Yeah,
I got
so I'd
more
have
of
to
this.
pay. You know, normally you have cats to just leave Food Mountain and you can leave for a few days. But no, I'd have to pay to have someone come to my house every single day for like an hour to just like clean the litter box, you know, refill multiple water cups. My cats actually drink out of glasses. They want to be civilized. They don't want bowls.
Sure. With a leash, I imagine,
Exactly,
right? And a smoking jacket or whatever. I'm not sure how you run your household, but okay.
Yes, exactly. So tell me, what are some tales you want to leave the world? You know, at the end, granted, you still have at least, 50, 60 years left,
Thank
here
you. How
with
kind.
us.
How
But,
kind.
yeah.
I'll tell you, one of my passions is, and the shout out goes to my wife, Vivian, because travel is undefeated. Even trips that are not perfect are undefeated. And international travel, so anytime the tale is to travel, not just for relaxation, but for continuous learning. Because I have learned so much traveling to every corner of the globe. I've been to all 7 continents.
Oh, wow.
And I would love to get to 100 countries. I've got a long ways to go, but every country I go to, I learn a little bit about culture and food and transportation and currency and how do I figure this out?
Right.
That kind of stuff. I mean, I would say, and it's such a thrill. It may not be the same as going into a full arena and playing in front of a lot of people, but it's pretty good. So I guess the tale would be, that's my passion. Some people are repulsed by the idea. I would never get on a train or a plane. But think about what your version of excitement and passion might look like, and then explore it. That doesn't mean you have to quit your job and go on a 100-day trip around the world.
Right.
100, yeah, but it does mean that you should spend a little time reflecting on what that might look like, what that could look like. How could you incorporate that which you're most passionate about into your everyday life and not just do it twice a year? Because I think a lot of people do that. I'm going to do something I'm so passionate about for my 2 weeks of vacation, and then I'm going to grind it out for 50 weeks. And I don't think that's how we're supposed to live. So that's my tale for you.
Well, especially nowadays when you can be more virtual than ever. You
Oh, yeah.
even offer virtual, trainings and virtual
sure.
coaching. So it's
For
like
sure.
you could be anywhere in the world for a majority of careers nowadays
Yeah.
and still provide a service. And so,
And I'll tell you, Taylor, that has been such a blessing to be. It could be 3 a.m, it could be 11 at night, based on my time zone versus who I'm serving, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that's like I'm here on the other side of the globe, and I'm supporting someone and I'm serving someone, and then when we're done with the call, I'm going to go explore this city and learn about whatever. So, yes, I agree with you.
what's been your most favorite city to, I guess, learn new things about in terms of their culture?
So my latest adventure was in Dakar, Senegal.
Oh.
And I found this fascinating. I love just talking with the locals about, what do you think about the United States, their politics, like all kinds of things like that. I should have.
You should have.
But one of the things that I learned was, so here, if I'm making eye contact with an elder, that's a sign of respect.
Yeah.
And so
Shouldn't
in
you
Senegal,
always?
yeah. And so in Senegal, what I learned was that is disrespectful. Never look at an elder. That's disrespectful for you to make eye contact. So if I'm making eye contact and I think I'm being super respectful, they're insulted. So there's not, I guess the moral of the story is there's not one way.
Right.
Because we were raised in the United States, this is the way it should be, and you should adjust to us. We have to understand that something with great intentions can be really disrespectful.
So interesting. And it's so true that we have to educate ourselves on where you're visiting before going there, because you do want to be respectful of their culture.
Sure.
You are a guest, you know,
Right.
in their home. You know, if you go to someone's home and they ask you to take off your shoes, you don't say, I keep my shoes on in my home. No, you take your shoes off.
Right.
So yeah, same thing when we go to other cultures, you know, that's very true.
Yep.
What's been the best food?
So the dumplings in Shanghai were just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Part of it is that I am greedy by nature, but these were just so good. And my wife and I also went to, and this was years ago, probably about 5 years ago, we went to Hong Kong, and it was a similar vibe. These dumplings were just amazing. So there's too many to name, but those are the ones
inside the dumplings?
I don't even know.
You
I think it's it could be anything. I think most of them were pork, and then there were some that were
See, that's my
shrimp
problem. I'm
and-
vegetarian, so
okay.
it's like I gotta go to like India. Like there's certain places in culture where I could like be pretty good most of the time, but yeah.
But there are so many options now.
Yeah.
I feel like, and even with the dumpling family. So
Being a vegetarian now is way easier than when I was a kid.
Oh.
You know, early 2000s, trying to be vegetarian, you'd maybe get some like chunky, disgusting tofu, and that was about it, and like a soy burger.
Sounds awful.
Yeah.
Like almost as bad as cats. Sorry, it just. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Good.
It's okay. It's okay. I still like you because you're the same name as my dad, and I share the same name as your daughter, so I can't hate you. Which is so funny. You said you're the middle child of two sisters. That's my dad too.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was the middle child of two sisters.
Oh, okay.
I know, it's crazy. And you're not Canadian by chance.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no,
So I was like,
no,
wait a
no,
second.
no.
This is a little weird. This is a little
Where in Canada?
Montreal.
Okay.
So, although he's like not French Canadian whatsoever, he moved to the States when he was like 6, grew up mostly in California and Chicago. So he's a city boy.
Okay.
But this has been so much fun. So tell me, you know, how can people get a hold of you? You know, what social media sites are you most active on so we can stay connected with you and everything that you're doing?
Thank you. So LinkedIn is my go-to.
Love LinkedIn, yes.
I've got literally 3 or 4 followers, so that's super exciting.
Is it a LinkedIn like a company page? Are we going to search Mars Coaching?
So you can do both.
Okay.
It's a great question. I usually post on both. Probably more active on my link.
Yeah.
I don't do great in some of the other platforms. I need to. Can I give you my number?
Of course.
Okay, so the number, because text messages are undefeated.
Yes.
And I work lots of different time zones, so
and we'll put the number too in the description.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So text messages are great. If you hate me, you will call and leave a voicemail.
Okay.
That is the worst. I don't know if anyone else is like that. For me, it's like, oh, there's a message here. I think it showed up. I think they called like 2 weeks ago. So anyway, if you hate me, leave a message. But if you want a quick response, you can contact me in almost any hour, almost any day. I may not respond right away, but you'll never offend me with the time of day or
because we never know where in the world you are. It could be
Yep.
noon your time for all we know.
Yep.
So
Exactly right.
text you anytime,
Yes.
follow you on LinkedIn. I would definitely advise that if you want a piece of advice,
I
post
do.
to your Mars Coaching company page, then share whatever post that is as your personal self. So then people who are connected with you personally will see that company page and then would, be more cued to follow your company page.
Okay. No, I appreciate that a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Because like I said, you do great work, and I really appreciate the way you show up authentically and with integrity. And despite your affection for cats, we'll get past that. We'll figure that out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so very
Cheers.
much. Cheers.
Thank
so
you.
everyone, travel more, take risks, have some fun, and thank you for joining us on Tales with Taylor with Brian today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.